Hi there. Welcome to the first episode of the 15-Minute Challenger, and I'm super delighted to have Jody with us today. Jody from Midnight Runners, as I introduced yesterday, as our first ever guest. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, all. A real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much. So just a quick couple of words on what we're trying to do with the 15-Minute Challenger, as this is the first kind of episode. So my intention is to build a community of up-and-coming entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs who are trying to solve some of the problems that we see in the world. And as I said, there's quite a gloomy picture out there if you watch the news. There's a lot of problems out there, but there's also a lot of incredible people who are trying to solve them. And Jody is one of those people. And so we want to build this community and inspire people who are watching and listening about what the realistic journey is of being a founder or a CEO trying to solve some of these problems. So that's what we're trying to do here with the 15-Minute Challenger. And Jody, I'd love you to tell people a little bit more about what Midnight Runners does, and then we can take it from there.
Thanks all. Yeah, for sure. So Midnight Runners is a global running community. We have 11 chapters around the world in cities as diverse as London, Berlin, Sydney, Hong Kong, San Francisco. Our prime purpose really is the functions of a running club, which everyone probably is familiar with. However, we sort of have taken that and expanded on it to solve some of the issues that are going on in our current world. On a week in, week out basis, we bring thousands of young people together in incredibly diverse cities and get them fit, connect them, and bring them together through a series of 1,200 events a year. And crucially, all those events are run by volunteers. So people can come work out for free. And it's also an opportunity for a group of very dedicated people who we call our crew captains to volunteer their time back to actually bring those people together, get them fit, and get them connected.
Wow. So on an annual basis, how many sort of people, what sort of scale are we talking about? How many people participate with you guys now?
So in 2019, we had 60,000 participants on 4 continents, which was completely incredible. And 2020, we were headed for probably around 90,000. But as you can imagine, for those watching in the near future, we went through something called coronavirus. That has obviously suspended all of our meetups and events around the world at the moment. But yeah, the sort of toolkit is all in place for us to have, hopefully up to 100,000 people running with us. And crucially, yes, these are, London, New York, San Francisco, Sydney, Hong Kong, Barcelona, etc. But actually, the data suggests we have over 100 different nationalities run with us, really demonstrating the kind of, multicultural, international nature of those urban environments now. So it's a great melting pot and a great way of connecting with your fellow, citizens.
And I think that's what I really picked up on when I was looking into what you guys do. This aspect of running together, so building a community. It's not about sort of pace setting and then leaving a whole bunch of people behind. That kind of element of the community coming together, I thought was a really beautiful thing. So can you talk a little bit more about the ethos behind that for us?
Yeah, listen, or I think, when we started Midnight Runners, we started it because we love running, and we still do. And, running is something that binds us all together. It's a shared passion. But actually, running has become this catalyst for something way, way bigger than running itself. And we soon began to realize that to our members, to the people that came and run with us regularly, Midnight Runners wasn't just a running club. It actually became a place and a space for people to belong. And we began to see and realize that in many of the cities that we operate in, and we started in London, and that's where we're all from, we're Londoners, people may think that they're connected. They may think that they're, not lonely, but actually there are aspects of our modern society which is increasingly on tech platforms where people are actually lonely. They are craving that human connection. I think this lockdown has proved that.
Yeah.
I think it's proved that, we are, as humans, gregarious people that love to look each other in the eye. And it's great, to be able to do this with you here, but I'd much rather be doing it face to face, over a pint or with a
Absolutely.
couple. And so I think we began to realize that actually, you know, we're not a place that solves loneliness, but we do actually definitely allow people to, after a day at work where they're sitting on a computer all day, they get on the tube, they're on their phone, they got the headphones in, they go back, they walk in the rain, they go back to their room, they lock themselves in their room, they go on Netflix. Actually, you know what? Throwing people together, getting them to work out, rain or shine, outside, bringing people together actually breaks down huge barriers between groups of people who may think they're connected, but actually weren't. Look, I'm a Londoner. One of the great things I love about London is the fact that it is such a multicultural melting pot, and the fact you have so many different people from around the world. Yet, really, if I thought about it before Midnight Runners, my interaction with those different communities and different groups was very thin. You may believe in it, but actually, how often do you practice breaking down those barriers between people? And sport is a great democratic way of bringing people together. And I think Midnight Runners, started as a running club, but has become this sort of bigger purpose beyond that. And that idea we've transponded, not just in London, but we've done it in Berlin, in Paris, in Barcelona, in Hong Kong, in Sydney, in San Francisco. It's a universal issue that actually sport and places like Midnight Runners solves.
Yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about what you guys do, because I think you're absolutely right that we have an impression that we have a wide and diverse group of friends or acquaintances in our life, but actually we become very siloed very quickly. Typically people have the same journey from university into workplaces where people have had fairly similar journeys. So I absolutely love what you're doing there. And I recently read in a pretty big BBC survey of what actually causes happiness is that knowing your neighbor, knowing who lives on your street, is one of the biggest factors in actual happiness and satisfaction in your life. In other words, having a community that is local to you is one of the most important factors in your own happiness. And so that kind of research really validates some of the stuff that you're doing, obviously, in building communities. And I think we need communities more than ever, which is what you're helping to build. So, if you were to translate your last answer into a nutshell and tell us what's the sort of problem you're solving that you see in the world, what does Midnight Runners really help to sort of facilitate or to fix in the world? What global problem are we talking about? What would be your answer?
Connections. I think we connect people and we break down barriers that exist between people that didn't really realize it, and allow them to actually understand and have a sense of place in the cities and the environments in which they live.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. So, you're the CEO, you're the founder of Midnight Runners. A lot of people see being a CEO, being a founder, as a very glamorous thing. And I recently watched Dustin from the co-founder of Facebook talk about reality versus glamour. So he would run through the scenes in the social network versus the reality, which was really, really interesting. And he also talked a lot about why you should start a business or a charity or an organization, and why you shouldn't. And this idea of money, glamour, having no responsibilities, flexibility, etc., were all kind of false myths of being a founder. So I just wanted to talk to you about what the real journey for you was. So some of the challenges that you faced versus the reality, and you can pick anything from a practical challenge, an emotional challenge, and we can just take it from there.
Yeah, I think being a CEO, or ultimately being in charge of any kind of organization, particularly when it's, not even at the startup level, right up to established companies, has, such highs and lows. First up, you're kind of almost a slave to it. It never goes away. There's no real concept of, clocking off at 5. Yes, you have the flexibility, to leave at 3 or go for a run, or, take a long weekend if you want, because ultimately, the buck stops with you, but it never really stops. My previous life before I did this, I was an army officer. And it was a completely different sort of way of working, because when I was working, I was working. It was 100% committed. You're focused. Everything else stopped. You know, sister's wedding, we don't care. You know what I mean? You're, um, but you know, tell you what, when you did stop, you know, when you pack your rifle away, you take your helmet off, and you get in your car and you leave the army base at the weekend or whatever time it was. That's it. You know, there's no, you know, there's no sort of email, there's no late night call. It kind of finishes, and you have your time off. So real kind of chalk and cheese. With what I'm doing now is it's 24/7, 365. You know, when you go on holiday, you can't turn off, you know, your phone. You're going to have the responsibility of doing it. And then, you know, come a crisis like we're going through now, everything that you've sort of set out for, your hopes, your dreams, the things you've built up, can be completely shattered overnight. And so I think it's about having the conviction in what you're doing, the belief in what you're doing, and understanding that that belief and that conviction needs to be reinforced repeatedly, because it may be up here, but you need to keep on telling the world that, and you need to keep on telling, you know, your staff that, you need to keep on telling your sponsors, your partners, your ultimately your consumers, your customers, if you're selling a product, because it's important that, you know, that message and that kind of belief stays true. And I think that's what you've got to do, you know, focus. I think for anyone, you know, wanting to get involved with setting up their own organization is go for it. You know, don't be scared. I think we probably, you know, your own insecurities and your own concerns or you know, lack of confidence is the biggest sort of, you know, inhibition to success a lot of the time. I think sometimes we're all guilty of, you know, thinking about something happening rather than just doing it. You know, taking that first step is probably the kind of the hardest thing you need to do. And, you know, once you sort of take that first step and you have conviction in it, you know, you go for it, but be prepared that it's going to become a huge part of who you are, and to make it work, you know, it's not like drawing a salary and then finishing at the weekend. It's nice to have that flexibility and freedom.
Yeah, and again, what you said really reflects what Dustin was saying as well. And it's interesting to hear you say that Midnight Runners started from people who were passionate about running. So the kind of core of what you started was a personal passion. And that's exactly what he says. He says, you know, you've got to live it. You've got to spend every single minute of your non-regular working life thinking this organization almost has to burst from your chest, is how he describes it. And I wonder if, from your point of view, how important is that passion and that belief in what you're doing to sustain you through some of the challenges that you go through as an entrepreneur?
100%. I think, you know, we are lucky in the sense that we work within, you know, sport, or, you know, in this case, running, because sport is full of passion. That's what drives sport. You know, whether you're the Olympic, you know, top Olympic athlete, or, you know, you're the amateur sort of park runner, it's that feeling that you get that sport brings. And the other thing I think about Midnight Runners is, you know, the passion for what we've created and the kind of solution that it brought around, and the feeling that people get for being part of an amazing community of like-minded people that are passionate about the same thing. Is it wasn't just you know, me or Greg or Joel or Christian, you know, the other guys that are involved in the kind of core organization that we're talking about Midnight Runners. It was the 60,000 people that come and run with us. So we had everyone turning up, absolutely loving what they experienced, and then going back and telling everyone else for you. So I think if you can put passion at the center of everything you do, to begin with, you know, realize that you're going to, you know, work late nights, you're not going to earn a lot of money, there's going to be, you know, overnight success, but get that passion to kind of spread, and the philosophy behind it, then that's the sweet spot with where you want to be. And I think, you know, I think nowadays, and particularly, you know, it's been accelerated by the coronavirus, but I do believe that it was the way that companies were going before this. I really do believe it is actually, you know, having a company with purpose and having a company which does good and a company that has good at the center of what it tries to achieve is the way that things are going, because I think, profit isn't a dirty word. We live in that kind of system, but you can make profit whilst also having a positive contribution to society. And I do think that the companies that aren't doing that and the companies that haven't been doing that are going to find a very different world when we wake out, post COVID-19.
Yeah.
Because no longer acceptable in my eyes to actually, just sort of take. You need to be an organization that also gives back. And unless you're kind of doing that, I think the writing's actually on the wall. And that's a great thing if that's the case. And so it's important, I think, for us all to realize where we spend our money, where we invest our money, where we put our money in our pensions, where from every single aspect of our lives, where we buy our fruit and veg, how we communicate with each other, what platforms we use, what we're saying on those platforms, where we work even. Look at your own employer and see what they're doing. And if they're not doing things properly, if they're doing things wrong, then speak up, because this is the time to change it.
Yes, that's phenomenal. I could not agree more with that. I mean, that's beautifully put, and that's exactly what I agree with. I completely believe in that. I think the post-COVID world, mixed with the shift that we already see in millennial consumption, means that the trend is completely in favor of companies. The kind of tailwinds are coming with those companies that are doing exactly as you say, having that kind of dual bottom line of purpose and profit, which is exactly where we want to build a community of people in. So that's incredibly well put. So thanks for that. Yeah, that's awesome. I could talk about that all day, but we're probably going to go over our 15 minutes. So just to wrap up, a couple more questions, and then I'm sure we'll catch up offline more on that, because I think that's such an important area, and I completely agree with you. So the kind of penultimate question for you would be, if somebody's watching this, they could be somebody who works in a big company in marketing, they could be an agency leader, they could be an investor. What help would you need? So what would be the most amazing offer of help, support that you could get from somebody out there right now?
So our prime revenue stream is sponsorship, and that way we are allowed to keep sort of 95% of our events completely free to use for our members. And so, we are an amazing way of connecting, awesome companies that believe in our values and our mission and our purpose with fantastic, people, consumers in the most influential cities in the world. And so, if you're a company out there that would love to work with Midnight Runners and sponsor us, and get your brand out to our community and align with positive companies, then that would be fantastic. And that allows us to keep our kind of model and our values core to what they do. And then beyond that, if you are if you are a citizen out there watching this, I think come down to Midnight Runners and support those kind of small businesses. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about thinking about where you spend your money, or thinking about where you spend your time, or thinking about the kind of people you spend your time with. Is a positive network of people out there. We don't have to get entrenched in Twitter wars. We don't have to politicians who are selling us nightmares and not selling us dreams. It doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to always look at it in that angle. And I think if you pick those tribes of people, you pick those groups of people that have positive outlooks, that have positive solutions as well to the problems we face, we could be in a very different situation. We've picked the kind of bad road at the moment, but we're coming to a junction here. and we've got this amazing opportunity. We've got this amazing opportunity. So when this is finished, you know, pick the right way, pick what feels good and what is good, and pick the positive solution. Because I think we could all come out of this, you know, a lot stronger and a lot happier as well, and happy with what we're doing and the choices we're making. You're in
Yeah.
control. You are the most important person in your world. So, you know, pick that kind of positive destiny.
And I mean, what's beautiful about that is that often we see these global problems and we feel we're too small or too insignificant to make that difference. And what you've outlined in this interview is that, you know, where your pension fund goes, that's really important. You know, who those pension funds invest in. Is that oil, or is that something that's doing some good in the world? And there's a huge industry called ESG, which looks at that and tries to solve those problems, and they look at, you know, socially and environmentally sustainably investments. Where you shop, as you say, whether that's a big supermarket, whether that's a local farm shop, you know, all these little decisions that you as an individual make, how you spend your time,
Who you
and that's
vote.
who you vote. I mean,
Yeah.
You've got such an inspiring message about personal agency and how much we can all make a difference, which I think is absolutely beautiful. So I think that's really great, and I love that you've said that. Final question for you would be, what does a world look like post, you know, Midnight Runners has achieved global domination, it's achieved, you know, more than your wildest dreams. What does that kind of world look like? What does success look like ultimately for you and Midnight Runners?
I think if, you know, everyone chose a philosophy which Midnight Runners is based on, is we'd be a lot more connected, and not connected in the way that the tech giants sell us, but actually connected in the way that we understand each other, and we've actually reached out to each other with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that, we have an understanding that the differences between us are paper thin, but the common problems we face are ones that we all are united in, and that we can understand those common problems and work towards a solution to find them. You know, the issues such as climate change, you know, the issues such as coronavirus. You know, Wuhan may have seemed incredibly exotic and far away
Yeah.
3 months ago, but it may as well have been your backyard, because, you know, the coughing market trader in Hubei province, the locust swarms in Kenya, the burning forests in the Amazon, they're all of our problems. And therefore, if we understand each other and we realize that we all face them, potentially we've got a chance at sort of, you know, rescuing this planet, which I think was pretty much on the brink of bad things before this. And, you know, it's no longer up to us to say that it's not, you know, that we're not here to make this place a better land. I think the onus is on us. We have the tools within our society to change it. We have democracy, you know, we have the spending power. And it's only if we all kind of understand that and come together that we can actually make things better. So I believe that, yes, you know, not everyone's going to run, not everyone's going to understand that running is fantastic. I encourage you to do it. It's free. It's there. You can do it wherever you want. But I think the philosophies of Midnight Runners stand true, and it's philosophies that we've kind of lost how to connect with in our current world.
Wow, again, beautifully put. I mean, you know, really inspired by everything you're saying. And I'm so happy that you agreed to be our first guest. I think it's an amazing way to start the series. And I would love to hear from you more and over again. So I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
And I think, you've been an incredibly inspiring guest. And I would love to live in a world, as you describe, you know, post Midnight Runner success world with those ethos being lived out there. So that's incredibly exciting. And I encourage anyone who's watched this and listened to this to support. There's been some amazing sponsors that you guys have had before and that you currently have. And so please kind of reach out to Jody and the team there, because obviously the work they do is incredible. And if I was a big organization, I would absolutely love to be involved with that ethos and I'm sure I'd love to have you as a speaker in our organization as well. So
100%.
yeah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I'm
My
sure
pleasure.
we've gone over, but it's been so interesting, but hopefully it's been worth it.
No worries, pal.
Yeah, thanks again, Jody. Speak soon.
Thanks.